Drink beer, it's good for you. I'm empty-handed and I'm feeling blue, and I'm gonna drink till the day that I die.
Hello and welcome to the video. In this video I shall be reviewing the Grainfather, having now finished my 100th brew. You know, for a while now I've had quite a few people asking me why it is that I have so many videos in regards to the Grainfather and yet not one of them is an actual review. I also get asked a lot about the different modifications that I have made to my system, and can I make a video showing them? Well, okay, this video should keep all of those people happy and hopefully also give potential new users a 100% disclosure review from a long-term user like myself. So why did I buy a Grainfather originally? Well, I was a 3-tier system brewer who used propane prior to my purchase of the Grainfather. I was looking for a more compact system to use that was also safe to use inside the house. I weighed up the competition at the time and the Grainfather was to my mind the most common sense buy. I compared it to the Brewmeister Spiral units and found that not only was it almost half the price, but that it could also handle more grain and was more capable in terms of efficiency, so win-win as I saw it. My Grainfather was the first of the second generation units that came with a basic controller. At the time it would be fair to say that the Brewmeister unit had a slight advantage in this regard, in the sense that it had a programmable interface where you could set mashes, etc. But I found the whole system to be rather clunky and unuser friendly, and felt that it was cool to do everything on the fly anyway. Then along came the Connect controller for the Grainfather, which really added so much more usability to the unit and was nothing like the clunky system that was on the Brewmeister. Like the original unit, this can actually be used on the fly if you so wish also, but where it really comes into its own is how simple it makes the entire process of brewing, and I'm talking from A to Z here. Let me explain. At the web address brew.grainfather.com is this database of recipes that are both official and user submitted recipes. You simply make an account here, and any recipes that tickle your fancy you can just save to an unlimited cloud. These are then saved in a section of this website called My Recipes. If you're like me and write your own recipes, you can also add those to this section also. It's also worth mentioning if you've been using other brewing software like Beersmith, then most of those systems, if not all, can actually be uploaded directly into this, so you're not losing any of your recipes from the past. You can then open your Grainfather Connect app on your smartphone and all of these recipes automatically synced to the database on your phone. This is then beamed direct to the Connect unit and off you go. The system now knows exactly what you're brewing, and coupled with the smartphone app will talk you through the entire brew. So because the Grainfather now has all of this information stored in the Connect controller, it pretty much automates everything that you need to do in the brew in terms of the mash and the boil. During the boil, it will give you all of the addition times via an alarm. It will also tell you on the screen which hop addition you're adding. And also it will do things like automate all of your different mash steps, and it will act as a guide throughout the entire brewing process. One particular feature that I like is that it gives you a way of counting how much sparge water you've applied. Another really handy thing is that you have a timer that you can use, so that when you set up the Grainfather in advance of a brew, you can tell it how many more hours it's going to be before you brew, and it will have your strike water ready for you for when you start. Very, very handy. All new Grainfathers sold now actually include the Connect unit by standard. I have actually made separate videos that cover the Grainfather Connect controller and also the recipe creator, so if you're looking for a bit more detail on those, please refer to those videos. By standard, the Grainfather can brew between 15 to 25 litres of beer at any one time. A very handy addition that you can buy at a very small cost is the reduced pipework, and I would certainly recommend this. And it's also useful for very small grain bills, for larger amounts of beer too, like for example if you're brewing a mild beer that has a very minimal amount of malt. Another relatively inexpensive addition is the grain coat. This, as you could imagine, gives a level of insulation to the boiling aspect of things and generally helps the system come up to temperature just that bit faster. I guess it really will come into its own for people that are brewing outside. I use it inside and I see the benefit too. So personally speaking, I think when you put the Grainfather together with the new Connect controller, which of course is standard now, add in that small malt pipe and also put a grain coat, then you basically have a system that, to my mind, is completely unparalleled in the marketplace right now. It's fair to say that since the time I bought my Grainfather, that some cheaper systems have entered the marketplace. The problem with those in general though, and I do know certain friends that have owned some of these systems, is that they tend to be unreliable. And really, because you're saving money, you've got to wonder why they're that cheap. And quality is usually the answer. And the simple fact that they are pretty much glorified heaters that just happen to have been adapted for brewing. What you have with the Grainfather is a system that has been designed from the bottom up to be a brewing system. And that, I believe, is why this system works so very well. An awful lot of thought has obviously gone into it. One of the things that gets coupled with the Grainfather, which you will not find with any of the other systems, is that it comes complete with a counterflow chiller. The key thing with a chiller on any brewing system is to bring the wort temperature down to yeast pitching temps as quickly as possible. And certainly if you compare the counterflow chiller to a regular spiral chiller, which is what you're going to get with pretty much every other system, then it has a definite key advantage in terms of speed and delivery, and that's a really big plus for the Grainfather. One great thing that I can say about my Grainfather is, despite the fact that I've actually recently completed my 100th brew, I've never actually had a problem, and certainly none of the parts on the system have actually needed to be replaced at all. I have though made some of my own very simple modifications, and I'll run through these with you now. Like many brewing systems, the Grainfather uses its own pump. Wherever you have a pump on a brewing system, you will also have a filter. I've never actually had a problem with the Grainfather's filter, but I have now put some safeguards in place just to make sure that I never do. The first of these is that I've put a stainless steel mesh wrap around the end. The idea behind this is that it keeps that rubber cap firmly in place. I do like to whirlpool, and of course this does exert some pressure on this filter. The second filter mod that I've made is I've put a circlip around the rubber end that connects to the Grainfather body that then connects to the pump. This makes it a permanent fixture to the system, and you can see it in the just off centre left of this photograph here. I've whirlpooled with a drill and this has still remained in place. One further addition that I have made is to add a sink strainer to the top of the overflow pipe. The idea behind this is that it collects stray grain before it recirculates, and also allows me to further check that my grain crush is not too fine. And then we come to the final modification that I've made to my Grainfather, which is a Blickman thermometer. One of the main reasons that I've actually added this is that I do actually do some fairly specialist brews. Regular viewers of my channel will be familiar with the Norwegian Kveik yeast that I actually use in some of my brewing, which has some rather unusually high fermentation temperatures. They're also pitched very high too, up to about 42.5 degrees C. So perhaps you can see why now I need to know very quickly how my wort temperature is behaving when it comes from the counterflow chiller. So here is a short video showing how this works for me. I've attached the thermometer to the silicone hose that is in the wort outside of the counterflow chiller. On the other side of the thermometer is a further link of silicone hose. This extends the wort out pipe quite considerably, and you'd think that this would actually be a problem for the pump, but it handles it admirably and allows me to splash my wort directly from ceiling level directly into my fermenter. This is obviously a very healthy practice for your yeast, creating oxygen within your wort. None of the modifications that I've made to my Grainfather are very costly at all, and it's also worth mentioning that all of them are very quick and easy to apply. It's also fair to point out that quite a few of the users actually run the systems completely at default and have a very good, successful brewing experience with the system as is. It's all about personal taste. I don't feel that any review of the Grainfather brewing system would be complete without mentioning the fantastic support and backup you have from the company, should you actually experience any problem at all. Like any product, there can be problems, and the Grainfather is no different in this regard to anything else, except to say that with my experience in the homebrew industry in Norway, there are far less returns of Grainfather products than any other system, and that really speaks for itself. It's also worth mentioning as a final point that there is actually a really nice community for this brewing system within Facebook groups, and I will list some of the more popular groups for you now. Even if you're someone like me who isn't completely enthralled with Facebook, you will find that these Facebook groups are a fantastic way to connect with other brewers. You will find that there's people from all different levels of experience actually on these forums, and the majority of them are also very helpful, so if you have any questions you can usually get an answer here on any of these forums very quickly. Don't forget, there's no such thing as a stupid question, just a stupid answer. I'm actually a member of all of the forums that I listed there, so if you do need to get hold of me on the quick, then simply type my name in during the thread that you have with your question, and I'll get to see it pretty fast. I always answer everyone as quickly as I possibly can too. If you missed my name at the start of this video, then here it is again for you. Right, so that wraps this video up. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. So if you did like this video, then please do go ahead and like it on YouTube. This really helps me out and allows the videos to be seen by a wider audience on YouTube. I've got a lot of videos in the pipeline for the future, so if you're interested in seeing what I've got coming up, then please subscribe for future content. If you have any questions on anything that I've covered in this video or in others, or anything to do with brewing in general, then please do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm more than happy to help. Until then, happy brewing!